Hi, this is Tom. Welcome to my channel. I want to show you some things with Claude Code. So I'm using Claude Code as an app on Windows, and it has access to terminal, and you can give it a folder that it can read and write to. So it's writing to this folder here that I gave permission. It creates its own .claude folder where it puts things in there, and then it can just read and write to this folder, create subfolders and files. It's really fun to work with, and I thought that a good way of kind of showing how you can work with it is just to go through a session. So I'm just going to start in the middle here. Let me find a good spot here. All right. So I'm going to start with this. So I said, you wrote me a document. You wrote me a document for me, which looks like this. And then here is, I'm going to have to copy paste this to read what I said to it. So let me do that. All right. So you wrote a document for me, which looks like this. And then it says, can you update this? Okay, so I asked it to update. Okay, so a little background is I have a document which tells me about the project that we're working on. So that's this. And the reason for this is after a while things get complicated, so I just want to have some way that I can look and see, like, what we're doing, what it looks like. So this is organized by like what the project is. So the project is to have Claude Code build me notebooks in Notebook LM. And it explains how a run works. So this is what it does in order to do the work that it needs to do. It will create the notebook. Notebook has a discover sources feature. It will run that after the notebook gets the sources. Claude will read the sources and then use that to have Notebook LM generate videos. And then I've got a list of the skills. So the skills are basically prompts that Claude writes for itself. And this is the main methodology that I use with working with Claude Code. And it works fantastically well. And we'll see examples of that as I go through the session. Basically, just anytime you think of something that you want it to do, that you're going to want it to do more than once, you can have it write a skill for itself and then just ask it to do that thing and it'll know how to do it. Super cool. Okay, so go back to the session. So I asked it to update this document that's describing like the project that we're working on because we just had done some changes. So it responded, sure, let me update it to reflect everything we changed today. Here's the updated document. Okay, so it gave me the document and I can just click on this thing here and it'll copy and paste it. Now notice that it said here, here's the updated document. Okay, when I copy and paste this for myself, it's going to have as a part of the document, here's the updated document. That's because it didn't give me this copy paste thingy icon like separate. So there's two solutions here. One is just to not have it say this, just give me the document That's the best solution. That's what I did. Another way you could try to do it would be to have it like put the whole thing in a separate copy paste box, but just having it omit this is the easy way. So it gave me the document. All right, and then I responded, please write out instructions for someone else to set up a Claude Code work file like what we have, but just as a starting point. Basically what this is saying is I wanted it to have instructions for someone else that might be interested in being able to have Claude Code create Notebook LM notebooks also, doing the same sort of thing that what I've done. So that's what that task was. And so it did that, wrote a document for that. Okay, and then I wanted it, let's see, where do we go here? All right, so it's writing out how to do this, all right? And then here, this is a separate thing here. I asked it to execute tasks. All right, so to do that, the setup that I have here is this is the workflow that I have. It's called Ephemeral Notebook. And in this are a number of folders. And one of them is called staging, and one of them is called tasks. So for staging, I have tasks that have been defined, but I haven't executed them yet. So I would just move from staging to tasks, and then it would run that task. So these are all tasks for creating notebooks. The notebooks have videos. And so if I wanted it to do it, I would just move it and ask it to execute it. And so I did that previously. And so I had a task in there, and you can have multiple tasks in there. It'll do however many you put there. And so it did that, and it created a notebook with 3 videos. Let me see what that looks like now. So here is the notebook that it created, and all the videos are done now. So it created the notebook. The notebook had sources imported to it, and then Claude Code read the sources, and then used that information to prompt Notebook LM to create the videos. And here's the 3 videos. And the videos take about 8 minutes to create. So the Claude Code part of it only takes like 3 minutes. So it does 3 minutes of work and then passes off the work to Notebook LM that has about half an hour of work to do. Okay. So that's what happened there. And here I said, how far along are we in this session? And said, well, we're pretty deep into it. So I said, okay, let's close it down. And I talked about there were hiccups. So it noticed a hiccup that I didn't notice. And I noticed a hiccup that it didn't notice. And so I said, let's make sure that we get these hiccups. So one of the hiccups was it wrote the log file out of order. So there's a log that it writes to, and instead of putting this last work that it had done at the end, it put it second to the end. So it noticed that was a mistake. And then what I noticed was I want to be able to run the tasks without it prompting me anything. And because this is something I'm really happy about, is like when you're having it run, I'm trying to have it run autonomously, the whole process be autonomous. So I can start it and just let it go and then come back in half an hour or whatever. Or, I mean, you can queue up. I haven't stress tested it to see how far you can go, but I assume a couple of hours of stuff. I mean, I have the free version of Notebook LM, so that would probably be what would get me. What I would hit a usage limit if I queued up too much stuff. But anyway, the idea was to have it all run autonomously, and I got to a certain part to where it prompted me for permissions. And I don't think you can get completely uh, around that. Um, Not sure about that because I'm new to this. But what I know at this point is that if I start a work session at the beginning of the day, the very first session, I'll run into these kind of like permission things, and then they'll go away. So that's really cool. I'm real happy about that. So the very first session I do might not be completely autonomous, meaning like, no human intervention. But after the first one, then my experience is like really good going forward. And also something that's been really good. Not a single time has it not worked. Like, has it tried to create a notebook and failed? Every single time it's been able to create the notebooks. Now the videos sometimes fail, but I'd say it's at least 90% successful, and maybe 95%. The failures that happen are on the notebook LM side, not on the Claude Code. I haven't had Claude Code fail on anything. So that's really good. Okay, so I just a little background on what the gotchas were, but I wanted to show here is how we handle this. So I said to have it uh, update the instructions that it has for itself, because it should have caught this, because I had the same problem yesterday about the writing out of order. And so I said to it, also, you should have a checklist you're using as you go through the task to prevent this sort of thing. And this is a really handy tool to use, like in one's own personal life, as well as in programming tasks. And there was a book called The Checklist Manifesto. Pretty sure I remember that right. Really cool book. And it talked about the problem of how in hospitals there would be unavoidable mishaps, such as employees not washing their hands or mistakes uh, in the operating room, like um, doing the wrong operation, for example. There's all sorts of things that can go wrong. And so the guy who wrote the book was tasked on like fixing these problems, because they're easy problems theoretically to fix. They're not hard things, but they're like things that slip through the cracks. And so the author's idea was, he was thinking that like pilots have a checklist that they go through, and why not implement the same sort of system in hospitals? And it worked really well. Uh, and so this is that like opened my mind to the possibility of using checklists. And what I thought was really cool here was I didn't have to explain the concept at all. It just like immediately understood what to do. And so it implemented the checklist, and I haven't tested it yet, but I assume it should work. But I explained, okay, how did you do it? And it explained to me how it did it. Because what it was doing was, it was very clever the way that it did it. There's two logs that it uses. So one log is the logging, like what it did. And then another log is logging to itself. So the idea of that log is the session log. So the idea of that log is that when I open a new session, it can interrogate that log and see all the things that we've been working on most recently. So it's immediately like up to speed on like what we were just doing. And its idea for the check log was to write, actually I'm not sure which log it's writing to, but it's put the check log in the log. so that as it's going through its task, it's reading the log file, and then it can tick off the things that it's doing, as opposed to just uh, relying on its memory, which I thought was a great idea. So it should work to make it more robust and making sure that it actually follows the steps that it has. Okay, so one more thing that I wanted to show here. So I said, awesome, please write a document for me, formatting as you did the others, explaining how this checklist works. So the formatting was that I wanted to look good when I'm using Blogger to, sorry about this, got two browsers open. Let me get to the right one. Here it is. So I wanted it to look, sorry, to look good when I look at it in Blogger. So here this is explaining to me how the checklist works. So it actually created a new log. Okay, cool. All right, so there's a third log. So it created a new log for this purpose to have the checklist that it can go through to make sure that it's ticking off each of the things that it's doing. So I wanted it to format it so it looks good in Blogger, because that doesn't necessarily happen. Sometimes it doesn't look good. So it knows how to format it so it'll look good when I copy paste it into Blogger. And then there was one other thing, which is, see, it says, here you go. Well, I had to edit that out. All right. So I said, please create a skill for yourself which does this. That is, creates requested documents. This is a general skill, so it should be global in scope. It should instruct you to do what you just did with one additional item, which is to not preface it with, here you go, or anything like that I would have to edit out of the document. After you create the skill, let me know how I should ask you to utilize it. So I created the skill, and it said, done. To use it, just basically ask me for a document. So that's cool. I don't have to reference the skill. I just say, create me a document. And now it knows how I want the documents to be formatted. This is so neat. Really, really cool. And so I tested it. So I had to write me another document at the end here. What we did was I had it line up what we're going to do in the next session, what the next tasks will be, and write a document for me of pending things. And here's the document, and you can see there's no, here you go. It did it correctly. And then I can go into the Blogger post, and it's formatted correctly and looks good. So the main thing that I wanted to get to in this video was, I was just giving examples, but it was the concept that if you're working with Claude Code, that there's a very powerful technique that you can use that's easy to implement, and that is anytime that you think of something that you wanted to do, that you're going to want it to be doing more than once, you ask it to create a skill for itself to do that thing. And as you can see, like, it's just like automatic. Like I don't have to remember the names of the skills. Like I have it write out everything just because I want to know how it's working. But you can use it as a black box if you want. You don't have to know how it's doing the stuff that it does. You just tell it how you want it to do certain things, and it just does it. And very, very neat. So just ask it to write skills for itself, and you get more and more robust interactions with Claude Code with each new session as you do that. Well, I hope you find that useful, and thanks for watching. Until next time.